Hi, good morning. I'm Gerry Haughian, Key Account Manager at Caterer.com and one of the Glasgow offices. Um, I'm today chatting with Claire Johnston, who is Head of People at Manorview Hotels and Leisure Group. We're going to talk about how they have been responding to lockdown and some of the things that they've been doing to keep up with their staff. But Claire, good morning.
Morning,
Uh,
Gerry. How are you?
yeah, I'm good, thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself and Manorview.
I'm actually quite new with Manorview. I joined the team in November. For myself, I've been in hospitality for a number of years, and working in Scottish hospitality for around about the last 10 or 11 years. And it's a passion of mine. I've worked abroad as well. I've been very lucky over the years to work in a variety of different hospitality positions, operationally as well as the HR side of things, and kind of realised probably about 5 to 7 years ago that the HR and the people element was where I thrived and what I enjoyed the most, and that's where I then concentrated my efforts. So joined Manorview, as I say, in November, and really excited to be part of a team that are on a big journey culturally and people wise as well.
Yeah. Well, I've worked with you in your previous role in another business. When I seen that you were moving to Manorview, I seen it a perfect fit, as I know that Manorview are very focused on the people, as one of the largest independents in Scotland. So tell us a little bit about Manorview.
We are, as you say, a hotels and leisure group. We've a selection of 9 different venues across mostly the west side of sort of the central belt. We've got 3 nightclubs, we've got a couple of pubs, and then we've also got the hotels, and we've got a spa in one of our hotels as well. So we're a real eclectic mix of a lot of different things. Manorview is a family-born business. It started off by Steve Graham, and it retains that family essence to this day as well. We're now a 500 strong team, but we're a 500 strong family, and that's what drives us through. So we are everything. We do an awful lot of weddings. We have a huge weddings base. We have a big corporate base as well. We also then, obviously, with the nightclubs and the pubs side of things, we have a real local community connection to the locals that come through the business, and that as well. So it's a very diverse side of things. It's a very diverse workforce as well, and we're always looking to start to try and really be one of the employers out there that are really known for offering a phenomenal employee journey and team journey as well as a guest journey.
Okay. I mean, I know some of your venues well, having drank in them, both locally and where I used to live, and some fantastic properties. And obviously dealing with so many different types of customer base, from the weddings, the corporate, the locals. The COVID-19 crisis will have impacted your business possibly in more ways than others. How has that been dealt with by the business? What did Manorview do?
So we started having pretty fast-paced, serious conversations. I would probably say around the sort of the second week of March, and the decision was made. We wanted to get ahead of the curve a little bit, and the decision was made on the 18th of March to suspend trading for ourselves across all of our venues. The reason we did that was because at that point, if we can all sort of think back to that stage, and it seems a very long time ago now, and it's not. There was an awful lot of unsure information coming out. What's it going to look like? What's going to happen? A lot of other countries worldwide, many were starting to lock down. Death rates were climbing and so on. So, our team quite naturally, as ourselves, had a huge amount of questions as to what was going to happen with our business. So we took the call probably just shy of a week before the official lockdown came in, to close the businesses down. I think it was the best choice we could have made at that point. Certainly we wouldn't do it any differently if we had our opportunity again. We had chance to speak to our team face to face. We had chance to get ahead of the curve with regards to our guests and speak to our guests, and particularly our brides and grooms. Obviously, it's a hugely traumatic time for a lot of people, but specifically, when you've got all of your heart and your passion lying in an upcoming wedding. Some of our team members are those brides and grooms as well. So, we wanted to speak to them, and that was our priority, guests and our team. Then we wanted to get further afield and start to look at what we could do in order to be able to help. And we very quickly turned around from being a guest-focused business to then taking in NHS workers. It was important to us at all levels that we could help where we could. So we got involved with a lot of community initiatives, a lot of, obviously, as every hotelier knows, you've got spare stock sitting there that it's just going to go to waste. So food banks, local community projects, care homes, all those sorts of places that we could take food and vital resources and supplies to, we did. We also made up a lot of meals as well in some, I know, in Ishmore, in Coatbridge was one of them, and they sent out hundreds of meals to the local community. And then we also started putting out feelers to the NHS workers, who, as we know, are the rock stars of the moment. But we wanted to know how we could help them. So over the last few weeks, we've had up to 4 of our hotels nearly full. And we've taken over 2,000 room bookings as well, wow. Mostly for about a 2-week period, of course, all free of charge, and just helping these guys get through this very difficult time for themselves personally, coming off the back of shifts. Some of the stories that we've heard have been phenomenal, and it's really touched home with our team as to how they've been able to help.
And have you had many staff working at the hotels to assist with this?
Yeah, so we've done it a couple of different ways. We still have a very skeleton team obviously, to have somebody on site in some of our venues from a security point of view more than anything, but in the venues that have had NHS workers in, just somebody there to ensure that we've set up sort of stations so that they can help themselves to fresh towels and they can help themselves to teas and coffees and that sort of thing. So we've had somebody there restocking, that, and just being somebody to welcome them back to their accommodation, to their home, which it has been for the last, some people have been there weeks upon weeks. We've also, though, as well, even though the majority of our team have been furloughed, we put it out as a voluntary basis, and many of our team stepped up and have stepped in as volunteers to go and be in the venues and speak to people and be, somebody answering phone calls if there's guests ringing in with questions. We've also set up online an online chat as well, which is something new for us that was set up as part of this. And some of those volunteers are sat at home, monitoring that online chat as well. And again, that's for guests, for brides, for grooms, for anybody that's got any questions. And it's funny because actually over the last couple of days, we've actually had messages from people who are not wanting to ask questions, who are not wanting to inquire about room bookings, but are just wanting to say, we think you guys are doing a great job. We've heard about what you're doing, and we just want to say, thanks, well done. And that then communicated back to the team is a phenomenal thing to see that people are actually taking the time to send those messages in as well. It's been brilliant.
I think from a hospitality point of view, people who work in the sector, we know that they work in it because they have a passion.
Yeah.
Not being able to do what they're great at.
Yeah.
This is giving them an opportunity to still be involved, but also see that they're part of a business who cares, who does something. Now, we know that the majority of hospitality staff across the UK have been furloughed. Now, you furloughed your staff before furlough was a thing, before we knew what that was going to look like. But it's a massive challenge for these people who are used to working so long hours, nights, weekends, often away from their family. This is different. How do you engage with your staff now?
So we've always used Yapster as our internal sort of messaging system, and that has really come into its own. Our engagement, where, when a business was starting to sort of disperse, as it were, people were going off to their homes and things, you kind of didn't expect social media-y, because it is it's a communication board, to increase, and our increase was just under 20% increase in engagement on Yapster, which is phenomenal, and that really said to us that, one, our team want to keep in touch with us, our guys want to talk to us, they want to know what's going on, and two, it also then made us think that we need to keep this going from sort of a communications point of view, but also just from a little bit of fun and positive mental engagement as well. Yeah. So we're doing a lot of different things. Currently, today's discussion is childhood sweets. So what's your favourite childhood sweets? We've done crisps, ice creams, and we've also done, what else we've done? Crisps, ice cream, we've done home baking. We've done all those sorts of things. Some of our guys that we've got one chap, Ross, who is currently looking after Cornhill Castle for us. And he sends us some phenomenal pictures from right up on the top of the flag tower and, you know, little things like that. We, the guys that are in our venues, Morrison's and Co-op, the local businesses, have been donating by the hordes loads of stuff for the NHS workers that are staying with us. And every time we get donations, those pictures are getting put up onto the newsfeed as well. And it's just brilliant to see that sort of thing happening. People are getting involved with sort of doing, showing what they're doing around their homes, you know. So even though I don't have a to-do list at the moment, this is my home to-do list and this is what I've done, you know, and things like clapping for the carers on a Thursday night, as we all do, and all these sorts of bits. So the communication has increased. The style of communication has become a little bit different. You know, that there is still that sort of worky element to it, I guess, in that we're talking about Manorview and talking about our venues, but we're talking about just what people are getting up to on day-to-day sides of things. We all get together on a Friday night at 5 o'clock. We have our Manorview TV, live TV, and we get as many people onto connecting in on Zoom, but we also put it live onto YouTube and that as well. So we've been getting a really good response rate on that. And that's just about people are allowed to sort of submit questions through the week to get all your questions answered. But last week we had a quiz. Week before we had a bake-off, which was interesting with the flour shortage that there currently was. So, you know, the communication and staying in touch with people. There are people who haven't been in touch as much. And I guess that's where we all as leaders in the business, you know, kind of want to ensure we can keep in touch with them. And that's where the difficulty lies. But I know that all of our GMs have been staying in touch with their own teams, whether that is through Yapster or picking the phone up or, you know, through WhatsApp group, Facebook, whatever has been going on. But there's certainly a lot of communication happening, and that's really important. But it's also about giving people things to do. So we have an employee assistance program through Hospitality Health, Hospitality Action. So they've obviously been sending out an awful lot of interesting articles and tips of things to do to keep mentally healthy. So we're making sure that that's communicated through. Our guys have all got access to the team portal through that. We've also, we use Flow as online training. So we've uploaded a whole new lot of modules to everybody's account. They can choose to do them or not do them. It's entirely up to themselves. But there's been all sorts, a lot of other things as well. I know the British Sign Language Academy have done free sign language courses, so we've been putting those links up. There's been some of the open universities have done things. So if people are wanting to develop themselves, better themselves, take the time to do that, then we've been giving them that opportunity as well. And I know there's been a lot of different things happening. With obviously there's hundreds of webinars and all sorts of things happening on the virtual world that we all live in.
I think now massively important to keep in touch with staff, and it sounds like you've got plenty that they can keep their minds occupied. What we are seeing through all of this is technology has stepped up. I think we're all now much more used to video calls. It's just something we do. Zoom calls and various others, for Teams, for quizzes, for catch-ups, just somewhere to gripe. But also, I think people in the sector need that link, and it's good that we've got it. And it's great that businesses are making better use of those facilities. And whilst it might, as a business moves on and the sector changes, we may feel that technology becomes a bigger part of how things work in the future. Now, moving with regards to where we are right now in the pandemic, of course, Scotland's dealing with things slightly differently to the UK government. But what do you see as the key focuses for the sector now?
I think first of all, the key focus is to get back in and get our teams back and have some face-to-face time with them. I think the key things as well is obviously how is this going to work going forward? do we need to take some tables out of restaurants? Do we need to somehow socially distance spaces on a bar? How will it work with regards to rooms? And there's an awful lot of questions, as there is in every industry at the moment. And so, I guess we're all sort of trying to put a pin in a map and say this is what it's going to look like. But in reality, I don't think any of us really know what it will actually look like. For us, it's about the right here and now. I think we are at the moment taking some time to, I guess, put a little bit of a stop in the process and sort of say, right, this is an opportunity to look at how we currently do things and improve on them, change them, make them the best they can ever be, or just slightly round the edges off on things. Whatever it is, this is an opportunity to take some time to look at all the bits and pieces. We're never going to have, and we have never had before, this sabbatical sort of moment where we have that time as hospitality people. As you said, we're constantly juggling 20 balls in the air at once, and we always have those little jobs in the back of our minds that we think, if I had the time to sit down and really look at this, I know we could do it. Well, we now is that time, and we need to do that. So for us right now, we're looking at everything. We're looking at what the reopening looks like, and what stages are involved in that. And even though we don't have a time scale on that, we're sort of saying, okay, well, 3 weeks before we need to be looking at this, 2 weeks before we need to be, and we've got that sort of process we're looking at the moment and putting in place. But then we also are thinking, okay, well, once we are all back open and moving forward in some sort of direction, what can we do to really have made this time count, I guess. And looking at training, looking at developing, looking at the way that we recruit people, looking at the way that we operate, looking at cost saving, of course, all these sorts of things. So I think the keys for the industry is, one is to keep contact with everybody. I've heard some phenomenal conversations happening across different groups, different businesses, different individuals. And I think that connection is really important, because we are going to need to share best practice and share ideas, and this is what we've done and what are you doing, and that sort of thing. There's a couple of really great Facebook groups come out of this for Scottish hotels and that sort of thing. So I would say that's one key thing, is keep the communications open across all channels. Nobody's in competition with anybody anymore. Right now, that competition will come back, I'm sure. But right now, the only competition we're in is us against COVID-19, and we need to be able to reopen as a industry, as a Scottish hospitality industry, and move forward. But then in time, we also need to make sure that we made the time count. My father-in-law said, he said, don't get to the end of this time and think, I should have done. Make sure that we have done, because we're never going to have this time again, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and you're right, that some of the talks, some of the webinars that are out there, businesses do need to talk to each other, because we are all in it together. We punctuate our daily life with hospitality, whether that be a coffee in the morning, or meeting a friend for a glass of wine after work, going out shopping with friends and going for some lunch. We want that back. And there's so many venues out there that in days gone by were the competition.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
They need to be.
That doesn't exist now. We're all in it together. So let's help each other out.
And I think that the more that businesses communicate through this, the easier that process will be for life to get back to some kind of normal. Yeah,
absolutely.
Now, and I suppose that the last thing now, you touched on it earlier, that you don't think you would have done anything differently. What positive learnings has Manorview taken out of this period so far?
I think how dedicated our team are, and when the news was first put out, and as I say, we made that decision right back in the middle of March, and at that point we were all prepared, and it was put out you've seen it probably in the newspapers and things, that we were taking this 50% that we were going to take across the whole group, and the positive messages that came back through internally and externally from our own team and from other teams as well was phenomenal. It was brilliant to read those, to see those as well. So I think a learning from that is that don't ever be afraid to be ahead of the curve. Don't ever be afraid to stand out and be counted and be a little bit different. But the biggest learning for us now, and not so much a learning, I guess, but a realization, is how much we do put our team first. There's a lot of big companies out there at the moment, without, naming names, that are putting some major big redundancies in, some big cuts, some big slashes across the board, some big pleas for help. And yes, we're not a humongous company. We're a good sized company with 500 team on, but our team will always be the focus of what the decisions are that we made. And our guests will always be the focus of the decisions that we've made. And if we keep those two things at the top of our, whatever decision we make, we have to hold ourselves responsible for our values. Whatever decision it is that one, having our team's interest at heart, and is that two, having our guests' interest at heart? And if we stand by that, I don't think we can ever go wrong. And that has been a revelation in reinstalling that in us. That's how we've always worked, certainly from when I've not been with the company a long time, but certainly from what I knew of Manorview before as well, and since joining in November. That has always been the core of what the decisions are. But now seeing it in practice, and us realizing how good that is with the team, and how much the team are thankful for that, and how much our guests are as well. I would love to see all these brides and grooms that are coming back, and the fact we're still booking weddings for 2 or 3 years down the line virtually. Our guys are doing virtual show rounds and booking weddings.
Brilliant.
And that's brilliant. And to see that happening, and to see that business is still coming in, does put a smile on your face. And that's our learning. Guests, team, nothing else matters.
I don't think I can add to that. It's what the hospitality industry is all about.
Yeah, of course it is.
And I think Manorview, I said I know the group, from their venues. I see the media things that are shared. So I get that everything you've said there is what I've known of Manorview, and it's good that both your staff and the customers, and not even customers, are seeing that and taking that on board. And I'm sure that will come back in the future. Well, listen, Claire, I'll wrap up just now. So thank you very much for taking the time this morning. Great to catch up, and some great points raised. And so look out for future caterer.com catch-ups on our social feeds.
Look forward to it. Thanks for your time, Gerry.
Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.